Okay, welcome to this tutorial. And today we'll be the idea of this for the past since the last session we have been looking at scenarios that will actually help us to deploy our applications to a real server. So we actually looked at error handling. Error handling, it's important. It helps you log errors that can actually come up from your process. It helps send message back to other developers. Also, from time to time, you'd be assessing your log to understand what was the cause of failure, what's the cause of downtime. So that's what we treated in the last session. If you have not seen it, I think it's great to you'd actually go through that particular video. So today we are going to be looking at working with configuration files, and the question is, why do we configure? So basically, it's you need to actually work in a way that is very pretty easy for you, because when like in the when working with large applications, you're not just working on one environment. You probably you'll be working on your local system, but however, when you want to test, there's a server out there that's dedicated. Okay, this is an environment for test, developers testing. There's also it's a server for UAT, where the clients, the functional experts, the functional experts, the people that understand the process, they test this. And also there's a production version where this is what is live. This is what is being used by the users, everyday users. So sometimes you have different passwords, you have different database names, you have different server names for each of this. However, you can't at every point in time you want to, because you're creating a database, you're changing, moving from one environment to the other. You have to go and change the database name, the passwords. That's not best practice. That's not best practice. You need to do it in a way that whenever you deploy from development to test, you do not touch the actual development. You only modify the environment that is pointing to. So if you're actually new to development, I'll just explain it to you. What are the different environments? So we have in some other, I've seen scenarios where they have up to like six or more landscapes, but in most applications you see about three or four. What a dev environment is where you, the developer, actually get into the system. That's where you write your piece of code. That's where you define your logic. That's where you define your, like we are working with most of this, is where you define your API blocks, your API flows. However, you can test personally, you can test on this system. However, to validate your test with different test scenarios, you need to move your logics, you need to move your block of code, you need to move whatever you've done to different environments called test. And so a test is just a different system with its own set of data, with its own set of parameters. It's similar to a development environment. All the environments are similar, however they might come with different parameters. One might have like, okay, a better RAM speed, a better core configuration, and the rest. So after development you move to test. So this is where you, the developer, perform your test. Or if you're working in an organization that has a group of testers, this is where they perform their test and they validate your test. However, if this fails to pass the test phase, which happens, it's not wrong, is not wrong. If it fails to pass test phase, it's taken back to development. However, if it passes test phase, you move to UAT. UAT means user acceptance test. Now this means it's being tested by majorly non-technical people, not people that are not trying to look for database errors, or they're trying to they understand the functional need of this, but whatever you're developing. They understand the business need. They understand, okay, this is how a user would react, this is how a user would think, and this is what they call user acceptance testing. There are different types of testing out there, but I'm just trying to make it a simple picture. We are just working with user acceptance testing, and production is actually where you deploy your code. I get in it. So your dev environment might be your local system. You might have a test environment in the cloud. So most times you see they call dev environment a sandbox. However, in some organization there's a different environment, sandbox and development. So this is different from organization to organization um, based on their budget and their exposure. So that's what we will just be doing. So in this scenario, We are just seeing how to create a configuration file. So basically, we want to just be able to say, okay, we don't want to be, every time we're moving from one environment to the other, we don't want to be changing between we don't want to go into our code and change it. All we just want to do is we want to point to the right configuration file, and that will be all. So there are two types of configuration files. We have we have the .yaml file, and we have the properties file. .yaml is more, it's a more recent technology. It's more, I think it's very user friendly. It's more friendly. It's something you can actually understand easily, and it's because of the fact that it's used across different technologies. If you're working with manifest files in different languages, you might have come across some similar syntaxes, because some of them, when you're trying to export some of those things, they actually ask for, depending on your configuration, you would be seeing something like a YAML file or .properties file. So don't get scared. In this tutorial, we are just going to work with a similar scenario we did last time, but rather than putting the URL in the rather than putting the URL out in the actually in the code, we are going to be saving it in the configuration file properties, and that's going to help us. Okay, whenever we move from development to test or to production, we can actually just change the environment variable, and that's all. So let's go right into it. We'll be continuing from the tutorial we used the last time, or better still, I'm just going to create a new tutorial, so in case you're following this, you can actually you don't get lost. So what is this going to be? We are going to do, we are just trying to do a simple API for currency conversion. But now we would be using um, configuration, a YAML file to store our variables. Convert. Okay. So after showing all this will be available to you guys. You can actually request for it on demand. Yeah. So it's something pretty simple. So we have an, and what will be the base part about this currency? Okay. The next thing we want to do, we want to make a request, and afterwards we want to transform the message. So it's pretty much simple as this. However, we don't want when we come to request, we click on this. We don't want to be able to enter the host here, because because currently I'm using a particular API, which is free currency currencyconf.com. However, because I'm still working on development version, whenever I want to move to production version, I don't need to use this anymore, because this is no more, this is the free version. I need to use the live version, which is more accurate and which is more field proof. So if you did not see this during the last session, I spoke about this briefly. I'm using this free API out there. You can actually check it out. You can actually go for the real the priced edition, the priced version, which is more reliable. So this is it out there. You can actually go through it. But because we are just working on a dev system, you just do this and get your API key. So let's go ahead. So to be able to create a configuration file, you come here in your resources folder, you click on new, you come to file, and the name, so we have dev.yaml. Yeah, I'll just create two prod dots. So simply what it means is, whenever I'm working on dev, I should point to this file. Whenever I'm working on production, I should point to this file. However, it's so simple as that. We don't need to complicate things. So what it means is I'm going to start how I configure it. I said okay, HTTP. I'm working with HTTP. Then I'm going to press tab twice. I'm going to say okay, my currency endpoint. I'm just going to copy this. That's all it means. So I can also have like a port number. So assuming it's going to be 81, something like this. So if you're working with database as well, you can do this for your database. You can do host. On previous projects, we worked with a database, so I'll just check for the database name. Let's see whether we have that. No. We created a database in previous courses. Nope. So we just put okay, local host import. We can it's still 3306. Username. We have this. Password. We have something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is not a good password, of course. So all we just need to do is copy this same thing exactly and put on production, but change it with the right parameters. So this can be like a real server. Then the password can be this, and we can now use the actual password of our database. So this is what a configuration file looks. So we have a dev and we have a production. That's it pretty much. So all we just do is save this. And now to be able to make use of this request, just we come to global elements, create. We have to now create a configuration file. And we do configuration properties. It asks us for the file, we choose the file. So we are working with this. So the idea is at every point in time, we do not want to come back and touch our code. We want to read values from the actual configuration file we are working with. So that is so if you remember now, we have that means we have in HTTP we have currency endpoints. So let's go back to our flow in request. We come to new. So yeah, we typically have we actually put the value here, but now we'll be trying to read the value from the global we'll be trying to read the value from the global configuration file, and to read that we'll use a $sign, yeah, and we use a brace, not a square brace. This is a curly brace. Now the first parameter is http dot currency endpoint. I hope this is correct. Yeah, let me just check. Okay, so this is HTTP. So to access this value, I'm trying to access this. I'm doing HTTP dot currency points. So I'll just go back there and I'll just modify this. It's called currency points. Okay. Then just like what we did before, we are just supplying the same set of values in the API. Yeah, I'm just copying and pasting from the previous project. So yeah, I'm making a GET request to a particular API, and we have URI parameters, which I'll just copy from here. I have Q, compact, and API key. So I'm going to do that. Q, compact. I prefer copying and pasting to avoid errors. And the next API key. Okay, I'm going to put in the values now. For my key, I have this. I have this. I'm just going to put it in a yeah. The compact, this is a value, and this. So like if you're not following, you're just seeing this video. This is just actually an endpoint that we got online to be able to test this, to be able to see how to use parameters. So basically that's it. I'll just check it, deploy it. I think we are done. I'll deploy it and I will test it right away. Okay. Transfer message. I just wanted to send a JSON from a JSON, and let it send. The payload. Oh, let's do this. Conversion. It's going to give us okay. So our API is done. I'm going to save this and we'll test it together. So I'm just going to copy this. So I'm just going to copy this, create a new endpoint. Oh, I think we need to make this supposed to be a post. No, we don't need to make it a post. It's fine that way. We just say okay. Now, yeah, we did HTTP localhost, and the name of our listener was currency. Okay, so when our API finish running, we can call this out. Okay, so we are going to test this now. Send. So it returns the value for us. So now you can see here we don't need to actually specify the value of our currency points, I mean of our endpoints. So basically that's the advantage. So whenever you want to actually move to production, all you just need to do is to change the file, because it's using the same name, it picks the correct one. You can also use the environmental variable and point to the production version. So with these little tricks, you're able to move faster you're able to move faster and avoid changes in test or in production. So actually, thanks for this session. Feel free to ask questions in the forum or in the comment section, and we'll actually respond to you as quick as possible.